other development is that it has now come out clear that political parties have not submitted their nomination guidelines. Thank you so much for joining us here on the show.
Thank you very much, Betty, for having me.
All right, so I'd like to hear your thoughts about, first of all, IEBC coming out to single source, and then we'll get back to the conversation. Now they decided to single source from Saffron, a company that has unresolved issues like Musalia Mudavadi mentioned there.
Firstly, I would like to say that IEBC itself has a mandate to source through the Public Procurement and Disposal Act. And there are many methods of procurement. However, it was clear right from day one when we joined the Elections Technology Advisory Committee as members of PPLC that it would be impossible to have a system in place, the Integrated Election Management System, in place at that point in time for elections. So IEBC has been out of the deadline right from day one. And instead of letting the country know and involving stakeholders throughout the whole process, they decided to cocoon themselves and act like they are above anyone else. They did not involve stakeholders in the process, and that is why you hear all the noise about the system that has been procured. And of course, it is actually very wrong for IEBC to now go ahead and single source without calling stakeholders to the table. I mean, a lot of things would be avoided if they actually did involve stakeholders in the electoral process.
Well, they say that Saffron was chosen because, first of all, they have already, been involved in the electoral process here in the country, and therefore it's just a matter of integrating what they have with the new system or technology that they're supposed to bring on board.
Remember what we had before were three components. One was the voter registration. The other one was the electronic voter identification device, the EVID,
right,
and then the voter transmission. Those three were supposed to be integrated to form one seamless system. Saffron had delivered the voter registration kits, but still, of course, had issues about integrity. We remember what happened in the last elections in terms of how and why and finally to getting the system going. So in this phase, and according to the tender documents that we have seen, it was supposed to be a system that is able to do all those things, and Saffron had not tendered for it and was not qualified.
So you're raising questions about the single sourcing of Saffron company?
Of course.
All right.
Because IEBC cannot now cry about timelines, because in December, when we had our first ETAC meeting, it was very clear that we needed to move with speed. At that point, we proposed different methods of procurement. And they wait until the last minute to say, no, now we can't have it delivered.
But one of the things that they raised about Gemalto, and Gemalto really, even in a statement reacting to the termination of their tender, they said that they have participated in other elections and whatever they did was successful. But then IEBC came out, of course, and said that they were over the budget, they were extremely expensive, and they had encountered so much litigation that they slowed down the process. Do you think Saffron is going to cure all these problems that IEBC has? Because first of all, they're not even clear on how much this particular one with Saffron is going to cost.
I do not think that is going to cure the problem per se, because first of all, we expect that this week there's going to be more litigation. First of all, from the company which, what's the name of the company?
Saffron?
No.
Gemalto.
Gemalto. Gemalto is going to move to court, and I'm sure other Kenyans, as well as ourselves as political parties, are going to be moving to court principally to challenge the single sourcing of Saffron Mofo. Yes. So it doesn't cure the problems in terms of timelines.
Budget, they said that at least for Saffron, they're giving them at a bargain.
I am really, really shocked by IEBC when they mention issues around the budget, because right from the word go, it's IEBC that gives their own budget estimates. And therefore, before giving the budget estimates, we have had 4 years since the last elections. You should have been prepared that we are going to be having another election. The last system did not work. The EVID was provided by a different company. It was impossible to integrate the voter registration and the voter identification. So the issues were very clear right from the word go. So it is about, for us, it is that IEBC is not ready to deliver elections through an integrated system, because we've had 4 years. There were challenges in the last elections. You have had 4 years. What have you done with it?
Well, they might argue that this is a new team. They've had to battle out with cases. They were gotten out of office. The previous team was gotten out of office haphazardly. They might argue that, you know, they're just trying to make things work with the little time they have.
No, Betty. For me, that argument does not hold.
Okay.
Because one, after the last elections, there should have been an evaluation. And I'm sure there was an evaluation. So you definitely do know what challenges that you're facing as IEBC.
All right.
And once you have known those challenges, the secretariat has been in place. It's only the commissioners who are replaced.
Who are replaced.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about, you know, should we then do away with this technology completely now that we have these issues that are coming up, and we just have about 133 days to the next elections, and this system was supposed to be in place by May. Should we then do away with this system completely? Is that an option?
I do not think that is an option, because we must understand why we wanted the system in place in the first place. 2007, 2008 presented a lot of challenges in terms of elections and election management. And therefore, we said we wanted to go the electronic way.
Right.
Though voting is manual, but voter registration, voter identification, we wanted to go the electronic way. And I do not think at this point we can say that we should do away with electronic system. No.
Let me now bring in Dan Manzo. Thank you so much for joining us. He's the Makueni Member of Parliament. Thank you for your time. I'd like to hear your thoughts about, we've been talking about single sourcing by IEBC of this saffron morpho, now that we'll be giving supplying the technology for the elections. Do you think that this was the right way to go about it by IEBC through single sourcing? Yeah,
first of all, you know that tendering process began a while ago and was done by the previous commission. And therefore, before they left, they left the mess they had created with the electoral system in the country. Single sourcing has to be done in very strict conditions, whereby the authorization is done from the permanent secretary or minister of Treasury, and it must be, you know, in a certain way, so that it avoids corruption and is for the benefit of the country, and there is no single individual who benefits. So single sourcing itself cannot just happen. It's good to compare the prices and to make sure that we have the best offer for the country, and also the quality. Because, you know, and that's why you hear Kenyans are saying we have to be very careful. We don't want a situation whereby all systems have failed and we have gone manual. And even voter cleaning, you know, cleaning the register of voters is a very, very serious issue. So, and it means this equipment must be tied to that so that we make sure the people who appear as voters on the register are the true people, and it has to be connected. Therefore, it has to be done in a proper manner, devoid of corruption. The biggest problem in this country is corruption. These matters, some of them have been taken to court, and they seem to be nowhere near being sorted out. It is part of what we are suspecting to be a rigging plan, which the current commission may not really be part of, but the Secretariat and the previous commission know it very well. So
are you saying that as the opposition, you will not allow for this single sourcing, that, you know, you're willing to battle it out with IEBC?
It must be clarified, it must be explained, it must be known. Otherwise, just like many other scandals in the past, like the ones for passports and all that, it's a similar thing. And you know there are cartels, and there are people who have benefited unfairly out of this single sourcing.
I spoke to one of the commissioners on Friday. She was reacting to the same, and she was really confident that saffron morpho was the best bet because, first of all, they have supplied election materials, especially in the last elections. Yes, some of them failed, especially the BVR kits, but they still kind of like understand our electoral process and what we need. Do you think that's a valid argument for this particular acquiring of this tender?
You know, you can only know that they are the best after you have compared them with others. Without comparing them with other sources, then you can't really say they are the best. And you know,
she said they are cheaper also.
Yeah, and you know the current commission is still new, and a lot of mess was left by the previous one. The commission ran as it pleased those days and never followed the law. And he had a lot of lawyers who really had little disregard for the law and broke a lot of laws related to electioneering, including by their comments. And that's why Kenyans were unhappy with them and Kenyans sacked them. So they have to be very careful before they inherit the problems of the previous commission. And that's why we are saying we need to look again. And there is a proposal in Parliament that part of the Secretariat must also be checked afresh and it must go, because so long as you are involved in these cartels and you are part and you are a beneficiary to it, then you cannot be serving properly.
But isn't it too late to have that, Jane?
At this point, yes, I think it would be slightly, actually a bit late to have the whole Secretariat going home. But for my friend Dan, I think these new commissioners have already adopted the methods and attitudes of the last commission.
Which are what?
And I think they have gotten into the system and they have gotten into a culture where, you know, an existing culture, and they're just picking up from the Secretariat. For me, I think the Secretariat should have gone along with the other commissioners, particularly the top management of the electoral body. And I'm saying this because, for example, when we talk about following the law and the rule of law, already we have seen IEBC coming out and not willing to follow the law as it is. For example, they gazetted last week and said that political parties must submit their membership lists by the 27th, which is today. Yet the law is very clear that political parties are supposed to submit lists, membership lists, at least 120 days. And therefore, the deadline should be at the 120th day. You know, the process can begin much earlier, but the deadline should be, because it is very clear, it is an express provision of the law.
Right.
But then, every time that we have tried to canvass with IEBC over such issues, the last time, which was last week, the chairman said that he has very many court orders and he's not going to follow court orders that are going to interfere with his timelines.
Don't you think he's just trying to basically protect his mandate of delivering an election?
As I said earlier, the whole problem, even with the procurement now, is the lack of consultation with stakeholders. The IEBC must understand that the word independent does not mean that we are not going to consult people. Independent, yes, that we are not going to interfere or direct or control the work that you do, but you have a duty, even under the Constitution, to involve all the stakeholders. For us to understand, why would you cancel this tender and give this tender to another company? As political parties, it is very important that people are involved throughout the whole process.
Dan, one of the reasons that they gave for terminating the tender by Gemalto is that, you know, it faced so much litigation. Do you think this new one with Saffron is going to face the same?
Most probably, because the moment you don't follow the law, then you cannot have a proper process. And we really want, you know, there's a goodwill to the current commissioners, and, you know, Kenya is with them. So they need to keep that confidence of Kenyans, and she has made a very good point. They must consult stakeholders quite often, and stakeholders are the political parties, the major ones, and as many political parties as possible. They must make consultations, they must have their input, and whatever they do must be transparent, such that everything is on the table. And that's why they need to clarify and justify every single thing they have done, so that everybody is happy. Otherwise, the moment Kenyans lose confidence in this process, then I can assure you, we cannot have proper elections in August 2018, and the Kenyans are likely to boycott the election. I've heard it from yesterday in Mombasa.
Really?
Yes, if so long as we have no clean voters register, so long as the kits have failed massively, then there will be no elections. And therefore, the only thing you can do under the law, if there is no election, or a law which can be formed, is to form a care government, since we get IEBC right. And this is not the only area the country is having problems. There are so many other tenders which are skewed and curtailed in the country. You recently heard the case of the Minister of Water and the Thwake Athi Dam tendering, which has hit a snag because there is a law and there is a certain person who certain powerful people in the State House want to be given tenders. So it must be devoid of skewing, and must be open, it must be the best, and every Kenyan must be explained, and they must be satisfied with it. But if by 10 o'clock on August 8th, these machines are broken down all over the country, then what election are you expecting?
Let's talk about, finally, as we conclude this particular issue, the timeline. I mean, you say that, you want IEBC to deliver a credible election, but then these are some of the issues really that are coming up, especially to do with the technology. Looking at the timeline, 133 days to go. This technology is supposed to be in place in May. Should we then just do away with it completely so that it doesn't bring those issues that you're talking about?
No. If it could be skewed to that extent, but you cannot do without technology. The technology must work and must be backed up sufficiently so that there is free and fair election. The moment you go to manual, that is a sure way of rigging the election. And a rigged election will not be accepted by Kenyans.
Doing away with it, Jane, is it an option? Now that, IEBC seems to be really embroiled. And, like you mentioned, we're likely to see litigation against Saffron.
When we talk about timelines are not necessarily cast in stone, that they cannot be changed. And therefore, when we talk about May, we can extend to June or July. Elections are in August. As long as we are saying that within that time, we will have been able to test the system and test the equipment, that we know we can go to elections. But we definitely cannot go back to a manual system, because as I said, we need to remember what informed the decision to have an electronic system in place.
Let's now continue and move the conversation forward to another developing issue, and I like that he's here. You can take him on. Parties have not submitted their nomination rules.
Yes.
No. All political parties have actually submitted their nomination rules, all of them. What happened is that once you submit your nomination rules, IEBC then checks to ascertain that all the requirements that are supposed to be in the election nomination rules are there. Unfortunately, IEBC did not issue political parties with a checklist. It was on the 19th of March, we're in a meeting in Manzoni, that they came with a checklist and came with a scorecard for each political party, saying that, yes, we received your nomination rules, but this is the checklist we were using, and therefore go and amend within 14 days. That is also provided for under the law. So what political parties are now doing is to amend to include or delete their nomination rules to suit the checklist, but it wasn't there. So we have 14 days until the 31st of March this week for political parties to submit their nomination rules.
And what were some of the issues now that they have to go back to the drawing board? What are some of the issues that they had not looked into?
As political parties, I really wouldn't be able to say, because different parties have different nomination rules. I can only say, for example, that I saw some parties had not provided their nomination fees in the nomination rules and leaving it to the nomination board to set fees for them. And in other parties, you find there was no clear mode of appointing the nomination boards. So there were varied issues for different political parties.
All right. As we conclude, do you want to comment about that?
Yes, first of all, there is the law, and then there are the delegated legislation or the regulations under that particular law. And that's why you find the election regulations and also the political parties regulations, and the nominations regulations also. So political parties, unfortunately, the bigger law says that nominations will be conducted with the political party lists. So a lot of people have registered in political parties. But when you check at the secretariat, or when the number you're told to check whether you are still a member, you find you are not a member. So it means the day we are going for nominations, there is going to be chaos because the system has not functioned. There are options so that you can have open party list, closed party lists, and so that the moment you have presented that, then it means if it's a strong area of Jubilee or a strong area of ODM or a strong area of Wiper, where then most of the people there are likely to be members of WIPA, then we should follow their own list of voters and their own stations. Because now you hear nominations are going to be at the sublocation or headquarters. Then how are you going to know the names? How are you going to know this is a voter or not a voter? So there's a lot there to be refined, and I think for now that particular law, in fact, should be suspended to allow, to follow the IEBC list and to allow people to vote. You see the IDs. You saw what happened with the Jubilee one, the card. It turned out to be hacked, and the information in that particular card is already skewed. So a lot of aspirants in that region had issues with the card. And now the party list, you find you have the card, your name is there, but it doesn't appear in the party list. So it means a lot of logistics, and the practicality of free and fair nominations in all the parties is not really clear. So it's something IEBC and the political parties board should be able to assist Kenyans so that you don't have chaotic nominations, because nominations determine the election.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
As you can see, IEBC has quite a number of things to handle.
Yeah, but when you look at how political parties submit their members, is to the Register of Political Parties through a software that was developed by the Register of Political Parties. Now, IEBC requires us to submit to them, it's in the law, membership lists in hard copy. It will be very difficult for IEBC then to go and put it into a system and ascertain that this person actually belongs to a political party. The other
What
issue,
was the reason behind that, giving a hard copy?
I think Mheshimiwa would answer because he's in parliament and they're the ones who made the law.
Yes.
But
what was the reason behind
in fact,
it?
I'm in the committee for delegated legislation, which deals with that, and we really sat with IEBC for almost a month trying to refine. But we found that Parliament has to change a bigger law now in the political parties, which requires party lists, or define the party list further, like an open party list. It means if you know you belong to this party and you have gone to vote for your candidate, then you should not be turned away, simply because the software does not have your name, and simply because IEBC doesn't share the same software. This software should be shared to IEBC so that you cannot have a manual list and another, soft one, and then the two of them are in different camps, and you are supposed to use them to determine even the polling stations. So that we should have a uniform thing. So Parliament has got some job there to do. Nobody has moved an amendment of that law. And Parliament itself is even about to go into into recess, so that people can go and conduct a nomination. So you're going to expect a lot of chaos in nominations. Of course, there are systems of appealing. If you think you have lost in a nomination unfairly,
then we'll have quite a number of those, right? Of appeals.
Yeah, but there's another issue that he has raised, and which I want to just weigh in, is that sometimes you go and find that you're not in the list of a political party, so you're not a member when you check through the number provided by the registrar. What happens with the system is that once I send a name, and I could send his name, once I send a name through the software, if it is registered in another party, it is automatically rejected. Therefore, if you belong to a different political party, first of all, you must make sure that you have gone to have your name actually removed from the system. And then the party now can send in your name again. Then you will belong to that political party. But IEBC and the Office of the Register of Political Parties really need to come to a working relationship. Right now, they don't have a seamless working relationship. And that is why you find that now Parliament, I don't know whether to say in its wisdom or lack of it, provided that we provide membership registers lists to IEBC when already political parties have a membership list available with the Register of Political Parties. If those two institutions could work together, it would be very easy to submit from the registrar to the IEBC directly.
Thank you very much, Parliament in its wisdom. Thank you very much for your time. Dan Manza, Makueni, Member of Parliament. He's a Makueni Member of Parliament. And Jane Jiru, who is the Vice Chair of the Political Parties Liaison Committee. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you. All right, so we'll now take a short break here on News Center. Our coverage continues, and we will be taking a look at what's trending with Zinzi Kibiku shortly, so don't go away. We'll be right back.